Hello, hello. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I normally give writing metaphors. Sorry, where I normally give writing advice through running metaphors, but have since changed this format to be more productivity sprints. Huzzah! And yes, Richard, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here. Let's do this thing. I like that attitude. I switched the format for this channel as a means to finish writing and eventually publishing my fourth novel. I am very close to the end as of this week. I actually finished the official part of the story, and so now I'm working on the epilogue, which is basically just since there are, I can tell you, I don't care. There are 40 chapters of the actual 40 chapters. Yeah, there are 40 chapters of the actual story, and so that makes the epilogue technically chapter 41. But I happen to like the style of having an epilogue in there. I toyed in the previous book with having a prologue. And so I'm trying to, I know the recommended strategy is not to have a prologue or an epilogue or whatever, but the way that my story is formatted and the way that the story progresses, I feel like it's good to have this epilogue where it's just kind of like a little additional thing. It's not really a teaser for the book, and I might go back on this and just make this chapter 41 because it does give some resolution to certain details that took place in book 4. Although this will tie, the ending ties very strongly into book 4. So it's going to be a shame that it's going to probably take me 3 years to write that. Anyways, let's see. Hey, prologue's going to be painful. Yeah. Some prologues can be difficult. We've discussed in the past, you know, your Brandon Sanderson prologue for Wave Kings, where, you know, you have this 600-page book and the prologue kind of hints at the underarching story, and you don't really fully understand it until you either reread the first book or until 4 or 5 books in does it fully make sense for the details that were in there. But good news, because I took off today, so I am surprisingly well rested. Now, that did come at a cost. On Saturday, I was asleep by, I think, like 9:30, and then on Saturday I was asleep by like 10, out cold. Normally I go to bed around 10:30 and I read for half an hour. I am in bed by 10:30 and then I read for half an hour. But on Saturday, I was just completely zonked out. And then last night, I'm pretty certain I was asleep by 9:30. Plus, I took a few naps in there along the way. So I am well rested until tomorrow when life, you know, kicks me in the balls. And I mean, yeah, we were in bed by 9, but we also watched Sandman from the little Kindle thing. Sorry, my wife and I went traveling. We went down to Williamsburg for the weekend, and we got to see the first English colony in the Americas, which is Jamestown. It was a lot of fun, pretty educational area, and we ate some pretty good food there. So if you're ever in the Williamsburg area, well, what did we have? We had Second Street Cafe was really good. They had some great, just American style food. And the same thing with Food for Thought. Food for Thought was also really good. I had crab cakes there, and my wife had steak with a crab cake, and that came out really well. And then the night before at Second Cafe, I had a Virginia jambalaya, which is something I've never experienced before. Usually I get like the New Orleans jambalaya where it's really nice and spicy and you got a lot of shrimp and crawfish. This replaced the crawfish. So there was shrimp in there, there were sausages, and then there was chicken along with the rice and peppers and whatnot. So it was really good. And yes, this morning I did have pancakes and they were massive. I went to Astronomical Pancakes where I got their specialty Berrylicious pancake. And like the pancakes were a good foot in diameter. and then they put 2 on my plate. So I could have eaten one of them, but 2 of them broke me. And so I only had half of what was on the plate. But there were some other berries in there, and it was really good. And then Adriana had it was a waffle with bacon, and they put cheddar on it. So, if I'm going to go out and eat, I'm probably going to try and eat the most sugary thing ever. So it was good, but it wasn't really, her meal was good, but wasn't really for me. I enjoyed my berrylicious pancakes. They also had a whole bunch of other varieties of pancakes in there, but the pancakes came out really good. They were perfectly fluffy. So if you're in the area, astronomical pancakes for breakfast. Second Street Cafe is great for dinner, and Food for Thought is also great for dinner. And obviously, check out Jamestown because it's fun. We had an incredibly knowledgeable tour guide. He gave us in 90 minutes, he gave us a full history of largely the Americans from a European perspective, where it starts with the Spanish and how they kind of took over what became Mexico and invaded there. And then that created the silver trade and how they often fought the English because they didn't want to have any blockers to making money and selling their, sorry, I'm doing the clockwise rotation. That's because that is based on the tides of the Atlantic. So they had this perfect, essentially water highway where they would sail a little bit south and then just above the equator. Well, not just above, but a little bit above the equator. The tides would sort of carry them right into the Bahamas and then the Incan Empire. And then they would go up the coast to about the Chesapeake, and then they would circle back around to Europe. It was really, and like I said, that guy was incredibly knowledgeable. He was telling us about his history major, and he fully used that. He was very knowledgeable about all the people involved, a lot of the conflicts from largely 1400 to about 1800 in the general Jamestown area, and where the history came from and why Jamestown was founded in the first place. So yeah, I cannot recommend it enough. If you're in Williamsburg, check out Old Town Jamestown. Not Old Town Jamestown, but the actual Jamestown settlement. They also had a recreation of the settlement a little bit further north. But it's really cool to just check out that part of our history and discover some of our lost history, because for a while, one of the interesting facts about it was that they thought, so the water level of the Chesapeake has risen. And so for a very long time, everyone and the coast kind of eroded. So for a long time, everyone assumed that the original fort that is Jamestown, the first, as I mentioned, English settlement in the colonies, was destroyed underwater, whatnot. But it turns out, in fact, that they had built on the highest part of the island, or highest part of the land. And so what they thought was the edge of the battlements was in fact the edge of the fort, but the fort extended inland instead of going out into what is now underwater. So really cool stuff. Always fun to know the heritage. And he didn't shy away from some of the less ideal parts of American history, wherein there were a lot of conflicts with the Native Americans who were already in the area. So he didn't shy away from any of the history or any of the more gruesome parts of America, but he was just extremely knowledgeable. And so really kind of made the day. And yeah, it was a fun educational tour. Yes, history is not always beautiful. And if it is, then somebody telling history is lying, because all of human history is just climbing on top of those who have fallen before us, whether that is directly through an action of the people who wrote history, the victors, or it is unknowingly part of history. Because again, a lot of that, without a lot of the Europeans didn't realize that they were accidentally killing off the people who were already in North America just by simply interacting with them because they didn't understand germs and immunities and whatnot. So, yeah. Anyways, we are here to write. We are here to be productive. So I'm going to start us off with just a 20-minute sprint for the first part because I am going to have to recollect my thoughts and figure out exactly how I want this story to end. So I don't actually know. And so I'm going to sort of start off with just a 20-minute sprint. Also, I am at about the 78,500 mark. I would really like to be above 80,000 words for the first draft, for draft 0 of my work in progress. I doubt I have 1,500 words for this epilogue, but, you know, we'll see how it goes. And so with that in mind, I am going to see you all on the other side of 20 minutes. And welcome back. There we go. Oh, that was the problem. I was going to say I didn't actually hear. There we go. I didn't actually hear the alarm going off. So sorry I missed that. Let's see. Oh. Yeah, Rufus has always been a good boy. We were talking about him a lot this weekend. He would have been miserable. It was a very hot and humid weekend, and we wouldn't have been able to take him most of the places we were, so we would have had to drop him off at daycare. Which, he has fun at. So it would have been enjoyable for him, I guess, as long as we didn't take him down on a trip with us. As much as he does like spending time with us. And let's see here. So I am through with 380 words. That's a pretty good start. I am a fan. Let's see here. So we are in check the epilogue and boom. All right. And I have a note to go back to the beginning because I just decided to put something interesting in, and I need to make sure that that tiny little detail is established earlier on. Basically, I am removing cell phones from the equation. Well, one person's cell phone from the equation. And yeah. Oh, actually, I should probably fix that too. Give me 1 second. Cool. Okay, so I need to copy everything into and back it all up. So let's see here. Right. Badoop. Save, copy, paste. Whoops, I added something to the wrong chapter. Sorry, just bear with me for a few more minutes. So I need to add this to chapter 40 so I can write a note to add something very early on. Badoop. And we are backing this up. All right. So how productive were you all in your own sections? Let's see. Wow. 767 words. Way to go, Richard. That is awesome. And you finished your chapter. Cool, cool, cool. Yes. Our dog very early on realized that if he just, well, they put our young dog with the old dog's room because he spent most of the day just sleeping on the floor like an old dog. So he was doing a bunch of things. Yeah, so I'm still planning to finish by 7:30. That's the plan. I'll do 2 more sprints of 20 minutes. So there's that. Well, so I do mention details about their cell phones and how they can charge using sunlight. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's that. Cool. 9% left to go. Awesome, awesome, awesome. You will probably, I mean, I have 1,000 words to write. I'm sure you'll probably get to 100% faster than me. So it's really cool, though. And I will stall for about 2 minutes. So I want to talk about this wonderfully incredible game I've been playing. It's called Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Got to be game of the year. Its storytelling is so incredible. The visuals are stunning. And what's really funny is that this was made by people who basically quit the AAA gaming industry. So my understanding is that these are people who used to work at Bethesda, who had some obviously incredible ideas. And those ideas were rejected by the company, so they kind of went off and did their own thing. And wow, like I said, the visuals are engaging. It's the best way I can describe it is everything I hate about Final Fantasy 13, they fixed here. So Final Fantasy 13 is you're just stuck in a hallway after hallway after hallway, and you're just kind of marching along, and there's really nothing to do. And I can see in Expedition 33 how they are restricting us in our exploration. But at the same time, there are tiny places where you can break out and go a slightly different path, or go into a corner which is kind of hidden in shadows and difficult to find. And you get, these tiny little rewards for doing so. And the story is incredible. I'm in Act 2 right now. So those of you who have played the game know what happens at the end of Act 1, how emotional the story already is at this point. And I can only assume that it's going to get better from here. It's not set in France. It's very French inspired. So the music is French. I mean, I can get the French influences from there. The names are French. A lot of them, I think we start off in a town called Lumiere, which, has a French twang to it. And, well, and it's just an incredible story. It's beautiful. Each of the characters are incredibly unique. So one of the things with a lot of these RPG games where eventually each character just feels and plays like the other, but each of the ones in Expedition 33 have unique skill sets that you need to utilize correctly to do the most maximum amount of damage and to survive. The big thing is that even if you feel overpowered and you're able to kill normal enemies real easily, the mini bosses and the bosses and just certain regular enemies will utterly thrash you. So the way this game works is if you can dodge perfectly, you won't take any damage, but that is exceptionally hard to do. The time frame that's required to do it takes a lot of skill. Each enemy has a different way of attacking, and they break up their patterns in ways which sort of get us out of just, mashing B, counting off and like 1, 2, 3, hit it, whatever. So it's all about memorizing every enemy's patterns. And then the bosses are like the enemies we've been fighting. So the game trains you how to fight them correctly. And so it teaches us without actually holding our hand and, teaching us like most modern games do with a tutorial and whatnot, although there are tutorials in there. And the game is just so much fun to play. It's so much fun to explore. And the story is wonderful. And I bring this up now because there's a lot of elements which I put in Falling Through or considered putting in Falling Through, which are in Expedition 33. So, for example, I just finished a boss that we fought on a river or a pond of blood. And there is a river of blood in one of my stories. So I'm not going to say which one, but there is a part where the characters walk by and they're like terrified for what they discover and the implications associated with that. But in Expedition 33, it fully fits. There's also this mansion with all these you go in there pretty early on, and there's all these locked doors, and each door opens up to more mysteries and more. If you can, do the little puzzles inside, you get rewarded for that. But also, the doors are connected to different places across the world. So you have this one central hub that you can use to kind of traverse different places. And it's not quite like that. I'm kind of not telling the full truth with that, because technically once you enter it, then the door that you leave from ejects you out in the place where you enter it from, so you can't really use it to traverse the world. But you do enter in different places, and that unlocks certain doors, and so it's kind of really cool to just explore and to try and glean the meaning from the story. So there is the main story, obviously, and from that you can kind of infer a whole bunch of different things about the world, and I'm sure that I will have a bunch of misinterpretations about it, but the story is just so compelling, and it's interesting and fascinating how, obviously, my book is already written. This video game came out this year, but how there are just shared tropes that come up in different places, like River of Blood and Mysterious Mansion, which ultimately didn't make it out. Well, kind of. But the mansion that's in my story is a lot less mysterious than it was originally intended to be. And so it's really cool to see how there are just shared ideas and see the way that different artists take those ideas. So anyways, I'll talk more about this at the end of this sprint when we get another break. I will not give any spoilers because this story is so good, and it's good because it's really good for me, or I have thoroughly enjoyed it so much because I wasn't spoiled about anything. I've explicitly avoided all of the details, although now that I'm starting to play the game, I am sort of expanding on there. So I'm progressed far enough that I'm looking at beginner's guides for how to do it. And I've learned that I've done a couple of things badly and I missed a couple of things early on, but I also am using some online guides to solve very specific details like certain puzzles. For the most part, it's just kind of like explore around and then find it. But for some of the puzzles, it's kind of things that I wouldn't have figured out within a reasonable amount of time. So the way I do it is if I'm stuck on something for like 10 minutes, I'm going to look it up. There was also like an early questionnaire thing where I obviously looked up the answers because I wanted to get the bonus without actually understanding what the questions were, because at that point in the game, there wasn't really a good way to know what the right answers are. Anyways, that's all to say. I'm going to talk more about this during the next break. And in the meantime, let's get into some writing again. See y'all in 20 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. And like I said, where was I? Oh, right. So I am at 700 words for this total chapter, and I'm likely to be well below the 1,500 word goal to get above the 80,000 word goal. So I'm going to keep trying, but I don't think it'll happen. I might get up to 1,200. I have a couple of cool descriptions I want to show for the scenery, so I'm going to chew a little bit of it. And, well, Richard, I'm always merrily talking to myself. It was fun. I got in trouble for, well, not actual trouble, but I was in. So every week I host these meetings at work. They're basically just open troubleshooting meetings. And so I was in there. There was one other guy in there, but he's another like fantastically brilliant person. And so he really needs help, but he just shows up to check in and to offer help to some of the younger people who don't have all the experience and will troubleshoot. Anyways, my point being, it was just the two of us in this meeting. No one was asking for help. And so I didn't realize that I had taken myself off mute, and I went back to doing my actual job of just doing testing. And at some point I must have been like just talking to myself, like, why isn't this working? You're such an idiot, blah, 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 whatever. And then the other guy came on and is like, by the way, Ben, you're not on mute. So, oh, well. So yeah, I do regularly talk to myself. And luckily I didn't say anything too bad in that meeting about myself or about the company or about anything in general. And I didn't drop any swears. Yes, I did not do that one, Richard. So good on me for that. But it was funny. And he's like, yeah, I do it all the time too. It happens, whatever. So we had a fun laugh about that. Anyways, Expedition 33. It is an awesome, awesome game. Like I said, the characters are there. The gameplay is fun. Each character plays slightly differently. There's a lot of timing-based attacks. There's a lot of ways in which I can try to maximize my characters and ways in which I'm going to have to learn how to maximize my characters. So right now I'm just kind of trying a whole bunch of different abilities out. But like I said, each person behaves completely unique. So I have one guy who I'm kind of treating as like a paladin where he's trying to soak up some of the damage. But again, that whole point is kind of stupid because there are a lot of monsters that just one-hit kill me. And then I have this really powerful sorceress. I mean, these are the loose generalizations for what these characters are. Then I have the interesting, I guess, tactician. So she's got a lot of really useful capabilities, like being able to wipe out an enemy's shields, being able to do specific targeted moves in specific ways. And so I've been trying to maximize her efficiency. And then we have the fourth person on my team. I only have 4 right now, though I'm heading towards the 5th. And this person is different. I can see how there are certain combinations. I guess loosely, I might call her she has sort of the feel of a rogue, where she's got a rogue or assassin, where she's got ways that she can build up multipliers over time. But her individual attacks are fairly weak, but she can do a lot of damage if you work through the battles a certain way. So, you attack once, you get some buildup of special attacks of these markers, and then you can unleash them. And it does a whole bunch of damage. But I do like the other 3 people more. Yes, I don't think I played AoE really in the past week. So when I get back to AoE, it will be very, very difficult. Very sharp learning curve. So the way about this game, though, is that a lot of it is memorization. So there are no maps, which makes that exploration thing feel that much better, where you get like every single time victory feels so much more earned. And I feel like if I walked away from Expedition 33 for a week, I will forget everybody's combos, all the builds I'm trying to do, where I'm even going. So I always try to end on at the end of the night or whatever. Or if I'm going away for a weekend, I try to end on a place where I can easily pick things up. So I will have finished off a level, or I'll just started a level and I'll be at a flagpole. And I'm in a way where obviously the only way forward is forward. That being said, AoE is a lot of fun, but it's good to take breaks from certain games. So I always have AoE, but I like also playing other side games. So before this, it was AoE and Breath of Fire, the OG, the Game Boy Advance version I have emulated. So I played through that. It was kind of fun. I have a couple of other games that are in my queue. You know what? Let me open that up because I have a list of games I want to play. So let's see here. What am I going to play after I beat Expedition 33? Let's find out. Oh, wow. Yeah. So I went on a buying binge from the site called GOG, which I think stands for like great old games or good old games. And so I bought Turok. I bought Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. I bought Rogue Squadron. I bought Dino Crisis. I bought Knights of the Republic. And or maybe I didn't buy those. Those might be on my list of things to buy because I really don't like buying games and then just having them sit there. So I have a bunch of, actually, yeah. So there's a bunch of different options from here, depending on how I feel after this RPG. There's the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, where I need to decide which version I want, whether that's PS4, Switch, or Steam. I know there are slight differences between all of them, and so I got to decide there. I don't know if I want to jump right from an RPG to another RPG, especially if my plan is to go through all those eventually. So I'll probably start off with the first one, Final Fantasy 1, play through it, maybe switch to a different one. I also have, like I said, Roller Coaster Tycoon is on my list. You can buy that at GOG.com, I think. And so I probably play through that. Turok will be fun. That's kind of an action platformer in the early age of 3D gaming on the N64, though that definitely didn't age well in terms of cultural appropriation. That is unfortunate, but at the same time, you are a Native American character fighting aliens and dinosaurs. So, it's a video game. I don't think too hard about a lot of those games, especially when they're blatantly not based on reality. So, I never actually had Turok when I was growing up, so it's one that's always been on my list of games to play. I'll see how it goes. I might get bored of it because I am very aware of how difficult it is. Not because of the actual platforming that's difficult, just because of how bad 3D platforming was in the mid-90s. And along with the Dino theme, I also have Dino Crisis on the list of games to play. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to start up the last of my Pro Tube sprints. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to start up right now, so that way we can finish as soon as possible. So I will see you all in 20 minutes. And I'm going to give it a quick goodbye because my food will probably be here. Hey everyone, thank you for joining in for the third productivity sprint. I got 0 writing done. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I did a whole bunch of planning, so I did a bunch of reorganizing within the chapter to prep for what's to come. I also did write a couple of dialogue elements that will take place later on in the epilogue in the chapter. So it's like gains that haven't been realized. So when I get to that point in the story, when I get to that part of it, it will streamline through. I think I have a couple hundred words of back and forth. That being said, I wish you all a wonderful night. I'm going to go eat. Richard, take care. I will see you all next week. To the rest of you, I hope to see you all next Monday at 6 p.m. I'm sure I will not be this well rested, but, well, you do what you can. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. This is functionally my Sunday, so I didn't have work today. I'll have work tomorrow where I'm going to scramble to try and get everything done. I know this is going to be a really tight week. I think I have a 1-day assessment tomorrow. That leads into a 5-day assessment. So I do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday of next week. And it's a whole thing, but I got to figure out what I'm testing tomorrow because it's a 1-day sprint. It's going to suck. And then while I'm doing that, I also have to troubleshoot because I had some connectivity issues last week when I was prepping for the second assessment. So all kinds of issues that I'm going to deal with tomorrow, and we'll see if we can get them realized. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you all next Monday night. Take care. Stay productive, I guess. See you around.